Hello everyone, Storm here, and today we are back with part 2 of What If Harry Became Spider-Man. Now, this is of course part 2 as I said, so you need to check out part 1 if you haven't already. It will be linked in both the description and the comment section. I had to abruptly cut the video because I originally planned for this to be one video, so I didn't really record an outro or a new intro. With all your guys' support, I honestly did not expect this video to do so well. I mean, ultimately, it did do kind of average, but when you think about it from it's not a Dragon Ball video, it actually did the best out of my most recent non-Dragon Ball videos. As well as the support from 3 other YouTubers who I do like. Thanks guys for supporting this, and I will definitely be making more Spider-Man videos going forward. But anyway, this video is going to cover the rest of Spider-Man 1, so anyway, if you do end up enjoying the video, like and subscribe, maybe share it with a friend, maybe they'll enjoy it. Well, you should probably share the first part actually, but you get what I mean. But anyway, as always, be sure to join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. Peter and MJ meet again outside of her job, and that scene pretty much goes the exact same. The next, however, would be much different. Harry would be in the lab with his father, working together when his phone continually rings from Peter calling. Norman would sample Harry's blood, and the two would actually be talking like a real family for once, having actual conversations. Harry is happy that he can finally make his father proud, and Peter, having now been shunned by Harry, tries to get a job at the Daily Bugle by taking pictures of random stuff, and he just barely lands a low-paying job, much lower than even in canon. So while it seems like Harry's life is going up, Peter's is just going down. Oscorp is then sold, but Norman is a bit more confident since he has been working with Harry. Skip up to the festival, and Peter sees Harry and MJ talking. This time though, Peter wouldn't sense the goblin, and once the goblin does show up, he would kill all of the board members. But when he comes near MJ, Harry springs into action, punching the goblin in the face. He grabs MJ and runs away with her, getting her to safety. After this, he swings home to grab his suit. He knew the glider and flight suit was stolen, so this must be the guy who took it. This means that he has to keep his identity hidden, otherwise he may come back to haunt him and his father. That would obviously be completely devastating since his father just had Oscorp sold, as well as since him and his father are actually bonding now. He doesn't want to lose that. He returns with the wrestling suit Peter made, and by this point, many people have already been killed, but he can still do something. He charges in to fight the goblin, but just gets body slammed like Peter did in canon. Now by this point, Peter has already ran away, as he took pictures before Harry returned, so no chance of him knowing Harry's identity. The two would battle, but eventually the goblin would escape, and Harry also never has to save MJ since he already did that. After this, Peter and Harry talk about what happened at the festival. We then get the Norman hallucination scene, but this time the goblin would be referring to Harry since he knows Harry's powers. The Green Goblin would never attack the Daily Bugle since he knows who Harry is, and instead we get a scene of Harry working on an actual suit. The current one is not made for actual combat, and it's torn to shreds after the fight with the goblin. While he's working, the goblin walks in. He looks at Harry, grabbing him by the throat. He tries fighting back, but ultimately can't. The goblin sets him down and begins telling him about his offer.
I know your secret, Harry. I know we can become far more powerful together. That's why I need you. And that's why you need me. We would be unstoppable and rule over the world.
What makes you think I'd do that? The goblin takes off his helmet and reveals Norman. Dad? Harry asks. But why?
I can't keep control,
Norman says before getting cut off by the goblin.
Your father and I have been working together, and we think you're the best new candidate. Like I said before, with our powers combined, we'd be unstoppable. The choice is yours, but just know that I know who you care for most.
The goblin finishes before flying off and putting his helmet back on. We get to see Harry standing there in complete shock before we move on to Peter and MJ meeting in the street when some crooks jump her. Peter decides to swing into action, but with only being a regular man, he can only do so much. He gets beaten down by the thugs, but both of them are saved when someone else arrives. Spider-Man. His suit design is a lot different than in canon. In fact, the reds are completely replaced with a green, and the blue is a gray. I wanted to change it up because obviously I wanted it to represent Harry, as Harry is much more different from Peter, and of course the green goes with the goblin theme and all that, so I wanted to at least give Harry some kind of difference, because I don't really see him picking red and blue, because those colors basically have no meaning to him. But anyway, Harry lands in, body slamming all the goons and easily saving them both. They thank him before leaving. No Spider-Man kiss or anything like that, which kind of sucks because that scene is amazing. But anyway, Peter is somewhat suspicious when it comes to the design. I mean, Harry told him he wanted his suit to be spider-themed back at the wrestling thing. But the designs are very different, and he never really saw Harry with powers. Plus, the two had been best friends for years, so he'd tell him if... Before he leaves though, Peter asks if he can get a shot of him, as people had heard about Spider-Man and what he did at the festival, so that might actually be able to give him somewhat of a raise. Of course, Spider-Man would agree, and Peter would take the picture. We then get to the building on fire scene, which would be Spider-Man's first real moment as Spider-Man that is acknowledged by the public. Last time he was in an off-brand suit, and barely anyone was there, but here, he's rushing straight in to save people. He goes in, fighting the Goblin and urging for his father to take back control, but unfortunately, he cannot. The two fight it out, and once again the Goblin escapes. The dinner scene would be a bit different since Peter isn't Spider-Man, and both Harry and Norman know each other's identities. Norman would use this time to humiliate MJ like in canon, but this time it's so Harry feels attacked by the Goblin. If he wouldn't join him, he'll take everything away. The Goblin would then convince Norman to strike at Harry's heart once more, as if he loses everything, he may consider joining them. He breaks into Peter and Aunt May's home, scaring them both and beating down Peter. This forces Peter to take Aunt May to the hospital, where he has the same scene with MJ, and Harry witnesses the two holding hands. He leaves, swinging across the city and stopping some small crimes, as he can't return home. He cannot be near his father. While swinging, he gets called. He looks at his phone. MJ. He answers to hear the Goblin's voice. That's when we get to the bridge scene. Harry comes swinging in, ready to put a stop to the Green Goblin and finally free his father. Now, just like Peter in the original, he manages to save both MJ and the kids, and the Goblin knocks him into the final battle set. Using a pumpkin bomb, he blows off Harry's mask. This fight would play out mostly the same, with the Goblin having the edge at the beginning, but then it flipping to Spider-Man. When Harry begins beating him, Norman injects himself with Harry's blood, which he had sampled before, resulting in him also gaining the spider powers. His body would rapidly change, as the Goblin serum and spider blood fuse together, making something much stronger, the ultimate Goblin. By this point, Harry is once again getting bodied, but he is much more skilled than his father is with these abilities, and he uses that to his advantage. Eventually, he is able to topple walls onto him, kick him into the ground, and stuff like that. But in the end, this is not enough for him to win. Once he has him beaten, the Goblin offers him one last time to join him. "We're family, Harry. I'm your father." Harry then stands up, giving us his version of the I have a father scene. "You're not my father. You've never been there for me, even when I needed you, and that's why I'll never help you." The ultimate Goblin then says, "Well, that's too bad," before kicking him through a wall. He throws a pumpkin bomb, but Harry is just barely able to swing it back at him. This does massive damage and results in him ending up on the ground once more. His last trick is to use his glider to kill Harry, but he jumps over it, resulting in Norman being killed by his own glider. "Harry, my son," he says before ultimately dying. Harry, barely managing to move after such a long and drawn out and very much more climactic fight than in canon, looks at his father in sadness. After all of this is done, he leaves his father there and heads back home, symbolizing that he no longer seeks his father's approval and no longer needs it either. He will become his own man, without his father. The funeral then happens, and Peter is actually able to accept MJ's love this time, and the two are now together, with Harry ultimately feeling left out. He was the one mostly responsible for Uncle Ben's death. He had to help kill his own father and accept that he never truly loved him. He doesn't get to be with MJ, and he can barely stay friends with Peter with all this guilt and power he's been cursed with. The movie then ends with Harry swinging in his new, remodeled suit. And that is where we will end Spider-Man 1, because of course that would be the ending. Now of course, I will definitely be covering Spider-Man 2's changes next time. If you want to see it sooner, be sure to like the video and subscribe so I can see that you want it. Oh yeah, and also shout out to Zazo and Tyler for doing the voices of both Bonesaw and Green Goblin / Norman. They definitely helped out a lot. I could not do those voices at all because they'll sound terrible, but I appreciate their enthusiasm and their help making this video. Thank you. Let me know if you enjoyed this story and suggest some more Spider-Man what-ifs for me. But as always, tell me if you liked this part, tell me what you think will happen next, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Also, I'm gonna just add this in, bro. Sleep. Ha ha.